Well, I have one heck of a freaking news day for you guys today. We've got word about the God of War television series, and last week we had an article that came out that I almost reported on, and now I'm glad I didn't because the news today is huge, and it has me quite excited about this God of War television show. Also, I have some news on Sam Mendes and the upcoming films that he's working on regarding the Beatles. I had no idea this was happening, and it's wild. And then one little tidbit of a Prince Charming film that I didn't know was being considered or made, and some possible casting news that is leaked out. So let's go ahead and just dig into all of this. As always, throw us those subscribes, the comments, the likes, all of that helps our channel a whole bunch. And if you want to stay on top of whatever is happening in the entertainment industry, I am here to bring you that news along with reviews of all the newest stuff that's been coming out lately. So make sure to do that and visit criticalist.com, our entertainment reviewing platform where you can drop reviews for anything that you're currently watching. This is a site not for critics. They can be here, but it's most importantly for you, because you guys are what matters. This is a platform for the people, by the people. So go ahead and drop a review for anything that you've seen lately. But on to the news regarding the God of War television show. And this is freaking wild. This is huge news here. So last week, the news that dropped was actually that the God of War television show has come to a complete and total halt after like 2 years worth of work over at Amazon. And basically, they were kind of scrapping everything that they had. And then now we're sitting here with news that we are getting Ronald D. Moore, who is an industry vet. This guy has been around a long time, and he is going to be the one that is taking the reins of this show, which is huge news, and it's great news for all of the sci-fi fans, fantasy fans, all of that. This guy being attached is looking like a good sign here. So what it says is Prime Video's God of War series has a brand new champion. Ronald D. Moore is taking the reins of Sony Pictures TV series based on the 2018 reboot by Sony Santa Monica. Now, this is the interesting thing, is that sentence here. So it sounds like this is going to be based on where they've restarted the series. So this won't be actually based on what the video games originally was, which was Egyptian mythology and all of that. This is going to be more on Norse mythology. And, even though all of the original stuff was canon, it picked up at a new point where it was more of all the Norse gods and all of that. So it sounds like that's what this show is actually going to be about. But it says, first reported by Deadline, Moore is set to serve as writer, executive producer, and showrunner of the series following the departure of Rafe Judkins and producers Hawk Osby and Mark Fergus. Now, if you do not know the deal with the two of these guys, this is most importantly Rafe Judkins, because Rafe is the guy who took the helm with the Wheel of Time television series. Now, I am a huge fan of the Wheel of Time. I read all 15 books, love them all to varying degrees, love the series. And the first 2 episodes of that show were excellent. And then the show slowly started kind of petering out and just not being what it was based off of, and just alterations that were made that I was not a fan of. Now, ultimately, after watching 2 seasons, I'm still watching the show. I still like it okay, but just for what Wheel of Time could be versus what it is, it's nowhere near as good as the books are, and that's a real shame. And so I was a little worried about him taking on the show, especially with some of the creative decisions that he made with Wheel of Time, which seemed to be a little bit politically motivated, if if I might say so myself. And so that's the thing with Ronald D. Moore, is that as far as I know, this guy has not become an activist. He's not become someone that is trying to shove a lot of messaging down your throat, overtly or so subvertly. So that is a good sign. And I mean, if you aren't familiar with him, one of the big things actually recently that he's been working on is Outlander. If you have not seen Outlander, I love it. It's 83 episodes in at this point. I think it's a great show, and it's going to be wrapping up fairly soon. But the biggest things that he's known for is Battlestar Galactica and Caprica, and then outside of those was actually he was very much attached to Star Trek back in the day with Voyager, Deep Space Nine, First Contact, Generations, Next Generations, all of that. And then as well, he worked on some Mission Impossible films. I mean, this guy has done a lot of really cool stuff. He's someone that you want at the helm of a project that you have going on. And with something as big as God of War, it sounds like the perfect choice. And I'm wondering if the pivot made by Amazon comes from some of the complaints with Wheel of Time, that sort of thing, and Rafe just not being up to taking on something of this scope. And I don't think he can. He's struggling enough with Wheel of Time. And like I said, not that that show is bad, but it's also not great, which it could have been. So him taking over this is very good news. I honestly thought after this 2 years of marinating and Rafe working on this show and multiple scripts and being ready to go, and then them canning it, I thought that this show might just be totally done. So this is a good sign for this show, and I think it gives us something to look forward to. He has been working recently on the show For All Mankind. I have not watched it, but I've heard good things. So he's still putting out good work. He's still doing a lot of things, and I think he's the perfect person for this. And I am now a lot more excited for this God of War television show over at Amazon, because if anybody's been watching Amazon's track record, it's very hit or miss. It can be very, very good and not very politically motivated or kind of just influenced by all of the modern stuff. But then also it can go totally the other way and absolutely ruin things that you love, like with the new Lord of the Rings show, which a lot of people hate. I know that there are some that like it, but your old school traditional fans really don't like it. And then there are a lot of other shows as well that they've kind of burned people on. So everybody's a little weary with Amazon at this point. But that's basically it for the God of War news. I'm going to definitely keep an eye on this as things are progressing, and I think it will move along fairly quickly, being that it's someone like more attached to it, and he's done this rodeo a few times, so it shouldn't be quite as difficult for him to rein in what this show needs to be. He already has a template laid out for him. And not only that, it's not even like as a book, he has a visual template to base things off of. So this should go fairly smoothly, at least. So fingers crossed. Now, on to the next piece of news here is about Sam Mendes and him working on a Beatles movie, but not just a Beatles movie, 4 Beatles movies. I had not heard anything about this. Somehow this news slipped by me. And if you are not familiar with Sam Mendes recently actually did the 1917 war film. That was his last really big film, I think, and a movie that I loved. But he did Empire of Light, and then he's apparently been working on this new television series, The Franchise, which just came out. But another big film that he was attached to was Spectre and Skyfall, and Jarhead. So he's done some very big movies, American Beauty, Road to Perdition. He's made some very critically acclaimed and also just acclaimed by audience films. Now, the thing with this Beatles movie is that it is going to be 4. This is going to be 4 complete films. And the news here is that they have said that the writers are firewalled off from each other. So what the article states is it says, while not too much is known about Sam Mendes' Beatle movies, a new interview with screenwriter Peter Strahan has shed some light on how the movies will be made. Speaking to Deadline, Strahan, who also wrote the 2024 film Conclave, revealed that all 4 movies will be written by different people. Strahan said that he was writing the film centered around George Harrison, and that other writers have been firewalled off from each other, with Sam Mendes acting as a middleman of sorts between all of them. The concept of this and the idea of this is wild and honestly extremely interesting, because, I mean, these were also 4 very different people, and I'm guessing that it will, to some degree, follow through their life. And it makes me wonder as well whether these movies will actually intertwine with their actors and who's playing each Beatle, and if we are going to actually see, these characters pulled into all of these movies. This could be very cool, and being that they're written by different people with different perspectives on these individual Beatles, the opportunity for something really interesting here is really high. This is a super cool idea, and the fact that they're all being directed by Sam Mendes but written differently is just really neat. So it says, I'm doing a biopic with Sam Mendes. Sam's doing 4 Beatles, and I'm doing George Harrison. We're being firewalled off. So this is just kind of a reiteration of what they had spelled out there. So basically, though, it says back in February was when they announced this, and what they have teased is they said, while the cast of movies is not fully known, it is reported earlier this year that Paul Mescal, Barry Cogan, Harry Dixon, and Charlie Rowe have been tapped to play the 4 Beatles. So Paul, Ringo, John, and George. But there's no official casting on this yet, so it's not written in stone. But quite often these things are the case when they get these kind of rumors and stick to them for a while. So there's a good chance that all these guys will be playing these characters, or you might see one of them shift to be someone else. But it would make sense that they'd get a fairly all-star cast for this, have bigger or up-and-coming actors, and really kind of lean into the star power for each individual person. And I think that this could be really cool. Now, granted, I mean, you're going to have a Ringo movie, and I mean, there's that. So hopefully he doesn't get the total shaft, but I'm pretty excited about this. This sounds really cool. And I wonder how each one is going to the production of each of these is going to possibly affect one another. Like if the first one comes out and it's not super well received, is it going to keep chugging through all of the other movies, or is it just going to halt at one? And my guess is that he'll probably start with the biggest of the Beatles and work his way down, but who knows? This whole thing is a very interesting and kind of unheard of product. It's a Avengers-esque kind of approach to telling a story about musicians. And I really tend to struggle with biopics, though, and they are quite often not very good. So someone like Sam Mendes does need to be on it, where it is a bigger director that can handle this sort of thing. But I still I don't know. I'm intrigued. I'll definitely at least watch the first one, and we'll see how these turn out. It sounds like a fun idea and concept. So, hey, why the heck not? Now, on to the last little piece of news here that I wanted to mention is that apparently Chris Hemsworth is in talks to play Prince Charming for a Disney film. Now, granted, a lot of us know how these Disney live action films go, some of which are well received, some of which not so much. But it sounds like most of them typically are just kind of viewed as a little unnecessary. But if this is a film about just Prince Charming, I don't know. Typically, they've been doing these weird like villain spin-off type movies that are just seem kind of pointless, but we haven't had one like this. And also, we've had a whole lot of, let's just put it bluntly, straight white man hating from Disney of late. So this is an interesting approach for a film from Disney with how their track record has been currently. So, I mean, Chris Hemsworth, not a bad choice for Prince Charming. He's a pretty charming dude. And I mean, obviously a big fan. He's got the star power, but we've seen that it comes and goes as far as what kind of a film he can carry and what people are going to show up for. I think that he is a very good actor, and I think that he typically does a pretty good job, but for some reason, sometimes people just don't show up for his stuff, and I'm not entirely sure why. So the news here is Chris Hemsworth is in talks to star as titular character in Disney's new Prince Charming movie, which has Paul King on board to direct. Deadline first reported last week that King was developing the pick and can now confirm that Hemsworth is in talks to play the iconic character. Simon Farnby and Joe Crocker are co-writing along with King. So if you're not familiar with Paul King, I had to actually look it up. But this is actually the guy that recently did Wonka, and he also did the Paddington movies. So those are all quite loved, and this guy is a pretty decent director. So that does have my hopes up for how the quality of this could be and if it's going to be entertaining and fun to watch. But Disney, if anybody has been paying even the slightest bit of attention, has been floundering big time. So whether they can put out something that's quality or not is, you can flip a coin and there's no way to know. But I don't know. I'll keep an eye on this. We'll see. And I mean, Hemsworth is still quite a big star and keeps a busy schedule. So if this movie isn't intriguing enough to him, he might not take it. And so he's been maintaining a decent relationship with Disney and Marvel. So it's like this might happen. And sometimes they leak these kinds of fan castings to see how people will react to them too. So who knows? We'll see. But I did want to just mention it as this story is sort of brewing. But make sure to let me know down in the comments below what you think about this God of War show and the news about Ronald D. Moore taking it over. I'm very excited, as you can tell. And then with the Sam Mendes and the Beatles movie stuff. And who knows? Maybe Chris Hemsworth will be a good Prince Charming. But until next time, I will be back for the news, maybe tomorrow, maybe following. And I will be reviewing the new Venom film coming up. And spoiler alert, I'm not crazy about either of the other two. But for whatever reason, I'm still going to give this one a go. I'm tentatively kind of excited. Maybe they'll just fully jump the shark on this one, and it will be so ridiculous and stupid that I'll actually like it. But as a big Spider-Man fan and just a Venom fan in general, these movies have not lived up to my expectations for those characters. So we'll see, but I'll be dropping a review for that probably tomorrow, actually. So anyways, I'll be back soon with news and reviews as usual, and we will see you then. Later.